Watkins Glen showed us just how intense the rivalries can get in this series. But a track like that, with plenty of long straights and overtaking opportunities, certainly brings a different dynamic from somewhere such as Road Atlanta. Technical, short, and punishing, this circuit is a take-no-prisoners type of racetrack. What will this do to our drivers and their approach today? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 4 of the Racing Edge Esports Championship. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman and Peter Mackay. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nothing quite replaces the driver's perspective here at Road Atlanta. With its roller coaster-like elevation changes, it's probably best to drop you into the car with Daniel Morad and show you just what they'll experience.
Hello everyone, I'm Freedom Man, aka Reggie Robertson. Today we're reviewing a lap of Michael Morley. It's going to come down to a 127.02. Road Atlanta. This is going to be today's track guide. We're coming out of the last corner, approaching the start-finish straight, and turn 1's going to be a real important one here. We got to keep it glued together with some maple syrup from the Canadian. He's going to brake heavy and hard, but very short. Get the car turned in and rotated toward turn 1. Real important to get back on the gas and go up the hill with full throttle as much as you can. Hold left as you can. Pogo stick the right side from the GT4. Michael's going to send her down the S's now with a light lift here in the right-hander, then back flat for the left as he prepares for the braking zone here in turn 6. Down to third gear. Pogo stick once again off both the left and the right sides. Somebody's going to have to get a suspension tech here pretty soon. A nice little frame skip because iRacing is iRacing as we go into the furthest point of the track, down into turn 8, I believe. Down into second here. This is the final corner before the long backstretch here at Road Atlanta. And this is real important to get a fantastic exit here and carry as much speed as you can because time is money and money is P1 through 3. Here we got the two Canadians, Roman Yolos, approaching from the back in the GTE class. Michael Morley says, "Hey, how you doing, bud?" And Giuliano says, "I'm doing well, bud. How about you?" 100-meter board comes quick down to the third gear. He's going to hold it tight to the left, get an important exit here, back on a nice little short straight. But it's all the way around to the start-finish straight. And again, that's a 127.02, your current points leader in the Racing Edge Sim Racing Series.
There you see what it's like from inside the cockpit, just how dramatic some of the rises and crests are around this track. But Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the details of this place?
Well, Joe, I've been here as a spectator in real life. I think I've probably done about 100 official series races on iRacing here during my 8 years on the service, including a 24-hour race. Recently, I've been doing some AI races around here, getting a little bit better at the circuit, racing drivers that, aren't real computer-generated cars. And I think I can say after all that, I'm beginning to get the hang of this racetrack. It's 2.5 miles long, 4 kilometers, 12 corners. That's a nice joke. Oh, wait, no, that's correct. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like about 30 corners or so. Look at that bottom side of the picture there. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. And by the time you get to the top of all that, they call it turn 5. Well, that's a nice laugh, isn't it? Joe, this is a difficult circuit, and these drivers are going to have to be on the top of their game today.
About that, especially with two classes racing out there at once. But speaking of those two classes, Peter, you've got the update on the GTE points, I believe.
I do indeed. And Caden Bin, our race 1 winner at Daytona, is still in the lead of the championship on 55 points. But Alex Simonic has closed the gap dramatically with maximum score on the last 2 rounds at Sebring and Watkins Glen. So it's all to play for there. Now, most of note, though, is that the third place driver of Nicholas Verone, 20 points back. Nicholas is not here today because he has been banned by the race steward for this race due to conduct in the previous rounds, which we'll get onto during the broadcast. Fourth is Guilan Pipers, 21 points back. And fifth is Giuliano Romagnuolo, 28 points back.
We've also got the GT4 class down there in the Cayman that they race in. Sam, why don't you bring us up to speed on those?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's early in the championship. We've only had 3 of 9 rounds completed, and the championship kind of has a little playoff scenario where you're racing mainly for the points in the first 8 rounds to advance to Bathurst in round number 9. However, already we have a bit of a 3-way championship, I would say. Now, a lot of people are looking at this graphic, probably thinking 3-way. It looks like a 2-way championship between Michael Morley and Andrew Warren. Well, yes, that is correct. However, I would also throw Sam Fellows in there as well. He may be sitting 4th in the points, but that's because he failed to score points when he ran out of fuel at Daytona, and he's finished 3rd and 2nd in the round since then. So I think in the long run, we're going to see Fellows make up some points and battle Warren and Morley for the championship. Although Thomas Cope might be interesting to watch as well, because he is currently 2nd fastest in qualifying.
We sometimes we'll have new viewers watching this series, so why don't we run down the race details. We are in round 4 out of 8, and there's the 2 classes that we talked about, the GTE cars, the Porsche 991, and then the GT4 Porsche 718, as well as the slower class. They've got a 40-minute race, and there are cash prizes that are up for grab, not just for the podium, but also for the overall championship. The good news for the drivers is they've got a fixed setup in this series. So all they have to do is get in the car, put the practice in, and try to find some speed in that manner. Now, before we get to the qualifying that is underway, let's talk about our promoter, because if you want to put your racing skills to the test on the track, you need to visit racingedge.com and check out the latest listings for race cars and classic cars. From super quick McLarens to vintage Ferraris, racingedge.com will cater for your needs. Want to learn more about how to get into motor racing? Visit racingedge.com/media for more. Now, right now, we've got Dakota Fripp on the provisional pole for the GTEs. Not too big of a surprise despite his appearance here, because he was incredibly fast in the warm-up. And then it looks like Andrew Warren continuing his tear, holding the provisional pole down in the GT4s.
Yeah, Michael Morley was a little concerning in the GT4s in practice. He was down about 5th in the order, but is currently 2nd fastest. The big name here is Sam Fellows, is only 5th fastest in qualifying right now, and he hasn't done all 4 of his laps, Joe. I don't know if he needed to run off to the bathroom or something, but Sam Fellows was 7/10 faster than his qualifying time in practice. So expect him, if he doesn't get back out on track, to charge his way through the field.
And a small correction there. It's 2 laps here in qualifying that they are given in these 10 minutes. They've got 2 minutes left to try and complete them. Trying to see if we do have anybody else that are looking to set another lap time. And unfortunately, I think everybody out on track essentially is doing some warm-up here. So it looks like all of our times might be set. As Bidloss takes a little bit of a shortcut there across. Take him taking the treacherous turn 5. We called a race just recently at this track with 3 different classes. And Peter, I have to imagine, even though it's lessened to 2, what we saw at Autobahn with 3 classes on Monday night is probably going to show a few similarities here, because it just seems like multi-class at this track is just so difficult.
It is. It's an incredibly tricky racetrack, a lot of undulation and a lot of really, really tight corners. And one thing that's a big challenge here is the track limits. iRacing is very, very strict on this track for little creeps over the limits of the track. And of course, that's very relevant here in qualifying, with just 2 flying laps to set your qualifying time. It's very, very easy to get in a bit of a tangle and not be able to set a qualifying time. But yes, you're right. Even with all cars being the same, it's a really challenging track to overtake on, with the exception of the long back straight at the end. And you will see the majority of the overtaking manoeuvres happening in turns 10A and turn B in the chicane at the end of the back straight. Of course, Road Atlanta is home to the Petit Le Mans race, which was originally held in 1998 and launched the American Le Mans series. And that race, of course, has 3 different classes, including the GT Daytona class, which Daniel Morad, who's running in the number 70 car, finished second in just back in October. So he's got some good real-life experience of this tricky Road Atlanta layout.
Well, that Road Atlanta layout is going to get some racing very soon because our qualifying is over. So let's go through the starting grid with Dakota Fripp on the pole, and he is going to be ahead of Caden Bean in second place. And on the inside of the second row, Alex Simonik is sitting there next to the man that you just mentioned, having raced here in real life, Daniel Morad, starting P4. Giuliano Romagnolo, really good enough for fifth today in the qualifying, with Alexander Davidson, who looked good in the warm-up, doesn't seem to have the pace here in qualifying, with 6 for him. Nick Rowland starts in 7th, with Carlos Cantu in 8th. Tay Kim will be starting in P9. Nick Del Campo will round out the top 10. Then you've got Gilhelm Pipers in 11th, Reggie Robertson in 12th, Jonas Hillert 13th, and Stephen Jeffrey 14th. Last of the drivers to get a time in for the GTE class is Jose Balbiani in 15th there, Sam.
Yes, 18 drivers in GTE, and we have 19 drivers in GT4, which means I've got slightly more work to do and should be getting paid more. Andrew Warren will lead that field off from pole position, which he has taken in all 3 races that he's done in this class, ahead of Michael Morley. Third place will be Michael Broomhead. Look for him to finish 4th, because that's where he's finished every race so far this season, and Thomas Cope will be starting 4th place. Sam Fellows, look for him to come through the field. That's not a great qualifying for him down in 5th on the grid there, ahead of Stephen Sheriff. Sydney Knight and Phil Schrader are there on row number 4, and Colin McKevitt and Christopher Bailey are rounding out the top 10. Michael Ogren will be 11th in class, ahead of Wayne Rayner and Jeremy Steinhausen and Brian Zinn. Connor Crichton and Charles Bachel and Tom Binderloss are the last 3 drivers in GT4 that set a qualifying time. And then you had Phil Beans and Mitch Davis, who failed to complete a clean lap during qualifying. Can't blame them too much for that, Joe, because it is such a tricky track to get around.
And even Peter was talking about, it's not just about getting around it, but getting around clean, keeping it on the track. So a few drivers going to have some hard work to do as the Porsche pace car now takes off. It is 24 degrees Celsius out right now. It's about 75 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. So actually pretty good conditions, Peter, since it looks like since it's a morning session here, I guess the sun hasn't had a chance to really heat up the pavement yet.
Yeah, absolutely perfect conditions here for this race at Road Atlanta. And it's a layout that's very, very hard on tyres. As Sam alluded to earlier, there's a lot of changes of direction. So you're really putting a lot of stress through the tyres. And this section here, coming down the S's, it's like, well, it's like a roller coaster. It's so tricky. And in certain cars, it's flat, almost flat. It's just that little tightrope walk. And I have to say, the guys from Racing Edge have put together fantastic setups for both of these cars, the RSR and the Cayman, and they're 2 cars that, if they're not set up properly, they are a complete handful, but the guys at Racing Edge have really done a fantastic job in making the cars much more manageable. Now, for the GTE runners at the front of the field, these cars seem to have much more benefit from the aerodynamic draft, and down this very, very long back straight, which we're just approaching shortly, there'll be brilliant opportunities to draft the car in front and be able to make an overtaking maneuver. And that back straight is in fact so long that one of the track's previous owners, infamous drug trafficker Randy Lanier, used to land his private plane on the back straight.
Yes, and that straight actually used to not have the chicane back there, I believe, during those days as well. That was a slightly more recent addition. I can't imagine coming into that final corner, coming at full speed. I believe they used to call it the dip right down there where they now have that chicane. There you see the GT4 class, quite a large GT4 class here today, Sam. So it seems like those GTE cars are going to have their work cut out for them trying to get through there.
Yeah, well, they're about 10-15 seconds a lap quicker, and it's only 1 minute 30 around here, so lap traffic is going to be an issue early and an issue often.
Right. Let's see how quickly they catch them, because right now the Porsche pace car is in. Fripp has control of the field, waiting patiently. Green flag is out. It's a bit of a late start for him, and that means that it looks like Caden Ben might have a good jump here around the outside as well to the inside. That is Simonic taking a peek, seeing if he can maybe get up into second place, but it looks like he runs out of space through turn 1. So far, so good. Let's head back to the GT4s.
Yeah, Warren still hasn't hit the loud pedal now. Now he has. Here we go. They're running off down into the first corner with Warren on the inside, Morley on the outside. No major change for position as they head into the first turn. Looks like both lanes got a decent start. They get through turn 1 cleanly. Sometimes you'll see cars run out wide there. Maybe a couple cars at the back are a bit wider than they should be. But now they're all single file as they head into the roller coaster.
If we can get through clean on turn 3 there. Is now we switch back to the GTE class. Unfortunately, Cantu and Roland, the 28 and the 67, had a hard contacts with the wall through turn 3 after coming together. So it wasn't totally clean here at the start.
Yeah, and a big off from Michael Morley exiting turn 5, second place in GT4, or at least he was second place in GT4. That off drops him 2 positions down to 4th.
Our GTE cars hitting the chicane for the first time, and in the back we got a little bit of movement between positions as Hillert gets overtaken, and in fact he's going to send Davidson off. Boy, what happened to Alexander Davidson? Oh, and Davidson just got turned. Contact for the number 8 car as Reggie Robertson got into him. Meanwhile, up at the front, Caden Ben right on the back of Fripp.
Yeah, of course, Dakota Fripp, a brand new newcomer to the series, but clearly not a newcomer to SimRacing, showing fantastic pace. He was quickest in practice and quickest in qualifying. It would appear he is a teammate of Alex Simonic, who's in an identical paint scheme with the Simicube logo on there. But Caden Ben has really been the standout driver so far of this series. He had a couple of tangles with Nico Verone in the last round, and you can tell the body language of these GTE cars is a little bit calmer in the opening stages than it has been in the last couple of rounds. And the race stewards at Racing Edge have done, well, they've handed out some pretty harsh penalties to try to bring things under control, because it has been a little bit calamitous in the opening round. Some really close racing, but also some contact as well. As we go back to the GT4, Sam?
Yeah, well, everyone is racing for second place in GT4s now. Thomas Cope has taken it from Michael Broomhead. Michael Morley still holds on to 4th ahead of Sam Fellows, and there's a pass for position back there. Not the ideal passing spot, because you're just going to hurt your run down the back straight. But yeah, all these drivers pretty much are running for second place. Andrew Warren is completely trekked out at the front of the GT4 field, and it's only lap 2.
Broomhead's got a very good run here for second place. That's Cope in front of him. And as they come down into the braking zone, Broomhead takes a look. He's given plenty of space at the apex. Could get the over-under. Oh, but he gets a lot of wheel spin, and now they've got a GTE car that's going to interrupt them.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
Cantu. Oh dear, sorry Sam, that's Cantu coming through. Obviously he had problems in the early lap there. He's in that much faster GTE car, so he's trying to cut his way through and does so very well. That's an awkward place. I mean, to be honest, that's the thing. Apart from the back straight, pretty much anywhere in this Road Atlantic track is very, very awkward. And as Sam quite rightly said, it's a very short lap here, only 1 minute 15 for our fastest GTE runners. And of course, with the GTE runners starting up ahead of the GT4, it's going to be not long at all before the leading GTE cars come up the back of the GT4 cars.
We need to go back to the lead in the GTEs, because Ben is climbing all over the rear of Dakota Fripp. And looks like they're going to have to go by a little bit of traffic. That's Wayne Rayner trying to stay out of the way, but he's got the entire GTE field coming up to him as he exits the pits.
Caden Ben all over the back of, and look at the revs. I like this new graphic, that's very cool. Up to nearly 9,000 RPM, and I have to say the 911 RSR has one of the Swedish race engines in the world right now. A 4-litre, normally aspirated, limited to 500 horsepower, and we're getting a great look at the enormous rear diffuser, which gives so much downforce to the back of that car. You'll see that there on the back of Dakota Fripp's car. But we're on board with Ben. We should see here him get a good draft here, but it looks to me that he's perhaps short shifting ever so slightly, maybe just biding his time and trying to work out where Ben's strong, where Fripp is strong, and where he is weaker. And that sometimes takes a couple of laps to gain that information. But look who's there, though. Simonic, there to give his teammate a little bit of a helping hand. So, yet again, round 4, we've got another great battle on our hands here at the front of the field.
And that is a 3-car breakaway up at the top of that GTE class. The next car down is Daniel Morad. He hasn't fallen off drastically. It's about a second and a half back there. As, oh no, and there's more of the GT4 cars that are having trouble getting back out of the pits. Someone there parked backwards. I think that was Bochelle.
That's not unusual. Not only in iRacing, but also in real world racing, we've seen calamities at pit exit. What's very interesting right now, Joe, is this battle for second in GT4. Thomas Cope has it, Michael Broomhead wants it. Like I say, Broomhead has finished 4th every single race so far this season. It'd be great for him to get a podium, but he wants a higher podium step than Cope, and who can blame him? But unfortunately, I think he's on the wrong side here for the chicane. Oh, almost a little bit of contact there for second and third, and that allows Michael Morley to close them right back up.
The number 6, though, unfortunately had his momentum interrupted with Broomhead finding himself not able to get on the throttle as soon as he would like. So they stay in order. Cope 2nd, Broomhead 3rd, Morley 4th. And don't forget Sam Fellows, who you were mentioning, someone to watch out for. He may be in 5th right now, but there's 3 spots up for grabs as Morley takes a tiny peek into turn 3 and then reconsiders.
Yeah, and I think Fellows can afford to be patient here because I honestly think, and I know it's so early in the race to make a statement like this, but I think they are all racing for second. Warren has about a 4-second lead, and right now, you know, he can afford to just be patient, see how this race unfolds. All he's got to do is get by Cope, Broomhead, and Morley.
Here's where it gets complicated, though. Our leaders in the GTE are now in the thick of the Porsche GT4 class, and Fripp is finding himself struggling to get through. Ben hasn't quite been able to pounce on it yet, but he is still, once again, less than a car length back in almost every single corner, and he's going to get another run here, Peter. Is this going to be enough of a slipstream?
Well, it is, but look who's right in his rear view mirror there, or more his rear view video screen, which is now very much the fashion in these sophisticated GTE and GTLM cars. As Fripp has to go defensive on the inside line, you can defend there very, very well, which he does so. Very impressive as well as they come up behind one of the GT4 machines, resplendent in the Flying Lizard colours. Of course, a team very much synonymous with Porsche in the past, and already this is the GT4 leaders who, of course, are having a big battle of their own. They're about to come in the... Oh my goodness, it's a massive pile-up. That's Thomas Cope. That is all 3 of our leaders. And look, there's Daniel Morad and Giuliano Romagnolo, who's managed to get through there. That changes the complexion of this race completely. I have to say, let's get a replay of that, Joe.
They were 3 wide, Joe. They were 3 wide for the battle for second in the GT4 class, and it just was never going to work.
I think it starts essentially with Cope making contact. He sent it in deep and made a little bit of touch with Morley. Morley went off, and that actually saved him, if anything, because he was out of most of the melee that happened there. And then you can see the top 3 literally pile into one another, trying to break and stay out of the wrecking car of Thomas Cope. And then wow, there's some good avoidance maneuvers in there, though, from the cars behind.
Yeah, and that's a blind entry there going at Simonic. I think gets through here. Let's watch him. We're looking at him live now in the 250. He got through that, maybe with a little bit of rub of damage, but he's through and safe, and is 2 seconds ahead at the front of the field. So he got very lucky there. Of course, the entrance into that turn 1 is completely blind, so they would have come round the corner and seen a very sideways Porsche Cayman of Thomas Cope. So we're looking back to P4. Sorry, Sam.
Colin Mikovic has just had a spin. Colin Mikovic was one of the drivers who was sitting pretty. He had been able to avoid that turn 1 wreck, but now he's losing a bunch of positions after a single car spin exit in the final corner.
As soon as we can catch our breath, we'll try to update the audience on what the standings are now. Here we see the incident for Colin. Is this a self-made incident or that traffic help? Oh, he got put offline, but you can't blame them too much there.
Yeah, they gave him a fair room, I think, guys. He was just being a little bit too courteous there. What a shame. So, Simonic, this is huge for the championship. Of course, Simonic had no score at all from round 1 and then has had 2 wins on the bounce. And, well, he's in the driving seat for a third here with 29 minutes to go as we look back at P4, battle between Peppers and Tae Kim. And there is Bin. Bin is back in on the go. It looks like he's got away with relatively little damage, and looking at the way he just drives straight past Tae Kim here, looks like his car is okay after that little pile-up. So he got away with it, but I don't think that Dakota Fripp was quite so lucky.
Honestly, miraculous that we didn't see more cars that are just junked after that. Cope was another one that came out probably the worst of it as he blew an engine. We ride on board with Ben, chasing Pipers in the number 7. This is for 4th place. He's already on the back of him, but hard to pass here through the S's section. Looks to set himself up and over the crest, off of turn 5, and falls back slightly, interestingly.
Yeah, and just an update on Dakota Fripp. He has got going again, and he's making his way back through that GT4 traffic all over again. His 911 RSR looking a little second-hand, but not a complete disaster. Of course, it's hard for us to tell in the commentary box how that has affected his performance. But once he's got a couple of laps under his belt, we'll have a better idea. But for Caden Bin, this is now damage limitation. He's been able to avoid wrecks in all three of the rounds. In fact, apart from one little one at Watkins Glen. My apologies. But this is for him to just try and a little bit of damage limitation and score as many points as he can. It's very key for him not to overdrive here and make and be involved in another incident.
As quick as he caught those two, he seems a little stuck here behind Pipers. Meanwhile, up to Warren, he is still leading by about 6 seconds now over Broomhead, who was able to get through all of that action. So our top now in the GT4s. Warren, I mentioned, leading. Broomhead second. Fellows is now up to third. And a driver I don't think we've even mentioned yet other than the grid. Sydney Nye is up to fourth down in that class.
Yeah, Sydney Nye is up to fourth and Stephen Sheriff in fifth. So, if you remember, Joe, Andrew Warren was dominating GT4 and he was far away ahead of that big wreck that happened in turn 1. We had 4 cars battling second through fifth. They were Broomhead, Fellows, Morley and Cope. Cope, we've already documented, is in the pits. Morley was able to get going again. He's lost a bunch of positions, but he comes into this race fighting Warren for the championship lead. So Morley has an opportunity here to try and salvage a bunch of points. He's still out there on track. He is 8th in class right now. Let's see how far back up the field he can get to try and salvage some points here today at Road Atlanta.
Down in fourth place, I think Ben is finally going to get the spot. In fact, it causes Pipers to go all the way off track. The number 7 car suddenly losing 2 positions, at least keeps it whole. We're going to watch the replay on this one.
So looking at Caden Bin going to try and get past Pipers here. I hope it's not maybe a little bit of net code. Hopefully not.
So.
No, just in fact, nothing. Not Caden Bin's fault there at all. Just got a little bit wide. Going on the entry of turn 1 there for Pipers, and that was enough to get on the grass. I have to say that's an easy mistake to make. So Caden Bin now up to 4th. So next along, well, series organizer number 70, Daniel Morad, of course, who finished on the real world podium at Petit Le Mans back in October, finishing behind the Turner BMW, Bill Oberlin and Robbie Foley. So here we come then down the hill, down towards turn 10A and 10B, crucial part of the circuit, trying to get smooth over those curbs, not getting too much of a pogo stick reaction over those, but more of the opening sector you've got to worry about for those. But actually for once in GTA, it's actually spread out a little, which we're not used to seeing at all.
Meanwhile, as we watch this battle here now for second place, Morad really not looking in his mirrors and thinking about Ben, although I'm sure that will change if Caden continues to show the pace he has. We ride on board with Giuliano. So he looks back at the number 70. More traffic yet to deal with. It is just an onslaught despite all the action that's happened out there. Haven't lost enough cars to really alleviate that. They go by Michael Ogren down to the inside. And both these drivers, I believe, suffering from a little bit of damage. Morad from earlier on when he got into a GT4 car in turn 3, and Romagnolo involved in the incident coming through turn 1 with many of the other GTE leaders. So I suspect, yeah, it looks like they're about even, unfortunately, on top end speed, both with front end damage.
Yep, and look, and Daniel Morad perhaps lining up a move here, but Romagnolo very good on the brakes, braking the car very, very straight, but then you can sometimes brake that a little bit earlier and get the car turned and get it ready for the exit and actually get a better exit here. But Morad very, very smooth despite that damage. We'll stay on board with, oh no we won't, with Daniel. Daniel on his, you'll notice his paint scheme there, that second car in shot. It says free candy on it, and basically that is a bit of a joke amongst the paddock, saying basically if you punt Daniel Morad off, you will get free candy if you hit his car. So points for hitting Daniel Morad's car. So yeah, he's desperately trying to get past Giuliano Romagnolo here, and going through that SS section with coming over the curbs of turn 5. That is really the pogo stick effect, where the car gets up on two wheels sometimes and it becomes really, really tricky. But look at this, he's definitely getting closer, guys.
Oh, he looked strong at the first part of turn 7. It's the exit, though, that you want to worry about. And I think he unfortunately did not get the launch that he needed. He's still going to stay within the slipstream, so he'll keep the toe of that number 55. But I don't think he's really got it enough in there to try and make the pass. He shows his nose anyways. This might help, though. Look at this. Some action in front of him. Phil Schrader and Steinhausen, who are battling for position. They're going to try and stay out of the way, and nicely done among all 4 cars there.
Certainly was, and you'll see there the Volt livery on that 718 GT4 car. They're just going past, of course, the Volt livery you'll see in the real world GT4 Michelin Pilot Challenge in the GS class. Now, looking at Romagnolo's 911 RSR, he has what looks like a goat on the side of his car. So, of course, Colin Edwards, former MotoGP rider, used to call Valentino Rossi the GOAT. Of course, GOAT standing for greatest of all time. So, I don't know if Giuliano Romagnolo is referring to himself as the GOAT. I guess not, but we must ask him if he gets on the podium today where the GOAT comes from. Perhaps he's a farmer, who knows. They get a little bit checked up there behind the GT4 car, but they get through safely, and Morad's much closer this time, guys.
That was Morley, who we were talking about earlier, is trying to make up the time that he lost from his big incident. This is a better run. Morad looking a little bit closer. I don't think this is going to do it. Neither of them really poking offline. It looks like they're just content to stick where they are. Haven't had much down in the GT4s, and keeping half an eye on there, but I'm not seeing much of a battle. Actually, this might be what we needed there from Daniel Morad. He got the launch off the chicane. Are they going to try and jump to the inside? Morad decides not to. It is a very difficult corner to go side by side through.
Yeah, that doesn't end well if you try to go up the inside there into turn 1. We've seen that so many times as they're coming down the S's, down that snake-like section, and they've got a lot of GT4 traffic to come through. Now, it's worth noting that Caden Bin on the lap before last was over a second quicker. A little bit more, it will pogo back and forward because of the traffic, but it was a little bit more level on the previous lap. The lap before that, big difference in pace. So if Caden Bin gets clear air, looks like he'll be able to get onto the back of these guys and battle for that final spot on the podium.
You can already see him in the back of the shot there as they come onto the back stretch. Romagnolo once again keeping himself safe with good corner exits. They did go by a bit of a battle for fourth down in the GT4s. That is between Sidney Nye and Stephen Sheriff. Less than half a second between them, Sam, and I believe Sheriff, one of those that has gained a number of positions.
Yeah, well, neither of these drivers has had a top 5 finish so far this season, so I think they'd both appreciate coming out of this race with a solid finish. Sidney Nye, I think, lost a little bit of time compared to Stephen Sheriff behind him with the GTE traffic going by. That allowed Sheriff to close up a little bit, and Sheriff closes up a little bit again as Nye has to go off of a racing line in turn 1 to let the leaders by, but Sheriff doesn't try and take advantage of it. Quick note about Morley. It does look like he's missing about, as Nye closes the door on one of the GTE cars, it does look like he's missing about 5 miles an hour top end speed, Joe, which is costing him a bit. He's gotten back up to 7th place, but I'm not sure he's going to get much higher up than that.
Considering one of the best passing places is at the end of the back stretch, I suspect that's going to make life very, very hard for him to make overtakes as this day goes on. And Sheriff also having a bit of a tough time because Nye pulling away inch by inch. He was close before. What was 0.3 of a second is back up to 0.7 of a second. So let's go back to second place once again because Morad continues to apply pressure to the 55.
Yep, still close. There's just nothing to separate these two drivers. I tell you what, for Stephen as Giuliano Romagnolo gets on the grass there and Morad begins to close. Tell you what, for Stephen Sheriff there, he was very close to Sydney Nye, but those GTE drivers were definitely not his favourite deputies for the Sheriff there, because they definitely cost him a lot of time when they were making their way through. As we come through, that's our GT4 leader, Andrew Waring, who gave us a perfect masterclass in how to keep your speed up and also let the faster cars through. But Daniel Morad gets a big wiggle there coming out of turn 5, and look at the gap now. That coming through that traffic, Giuliano Romagnolo has played it perfectly.
Morad's going to have to make up that time all over again. Certainly has been a little bit stuck here. Now, what's been going on with Ben? He's not gained time either. He's stuck at still 2 seconds behind. Can't tell if that's just due to the traffic or if he's lost a little bit of pace here.
I would suspect it's traffic because he has been down in the low 1 minute 17s and his last time round was a 1 minute 19.5. There doesn't appear to be any additional damage on his car. So perhaps just a little bit of traffic. It can just, when you're as fast as these guys and you get slown up by a GT4 car, it can just absolutely destroy the lap time. So let's see how he comes through here. There you go. Yeah, 1 minute 17.635. So that's much more what we can expect. He's had plenty of laps in the 1 minute 17 region. So I would really expect Caden Bin to be on the back of Romagnolo and Morad. And perhaps that's why Morad is not making a move on Romagnolo to not slow the two of them up and perhaps just sitting there in the draft and getting towed along.
Yeah, another driver that's been suffering with all the traffic that's going on. Michael Broomhead seems to have lost a lot of time to Sam Fellows, those drivers running 2nd and 3rd in GT4 respectively. And Fellows, actually, if we had a rear view camera on him, he almost forced a GTE car into the grass there. But so Fellows is close to Broomhead in 2nd. The battle's not on yet, but I want to keep an eye on it because, like I mentioned, Fellows, I think he should have qualified a lot higher than he was, 5th on the grid, and it'll be interesting to see if he can get 2nd. And, that could help him get into the championship fight if Andrew Warren never has a bad race.
That was Stephen Jeffrey who just put Broomhead offline, and he was the one that went off track behind Sam Fellows. Fellows gained a little bit on Broomhead with that small interruption, not enough to try and give himself a chance down into the chicane. Only 16 minutes left on the clock, so the chances are dwindling away very quickly here.
Yeah. Only 40 minutes for our drivers to make their move. Of course, quite different to the 10 hours of the Petit Le Mans as we look at Tay Kim in the black car there, and Willem Pipers in the number 7 car battling away furiously coming through here. But yes, the Petit Le Mans is something that was the creation of Dr. Don Panos, the circuit's previous owner, and an amazing event. And actually Porsche have, out of the 22 runnings of the Petit Le Mans, they have had 17 class victories, but only one victory outright, which was in 2015 when Nick Tandy, Patrick Keeley and Richard Leitz actually won outright in a GT car in the wet, which is an extraordinary achievement. So when it rains, these Porsches, they know how to go quick.
I remember that race.
Yeah, I do too.
Behold.
That was called. Okay, Peter says it was wet. It was monsoon, and Nick Tandy showed everyone what he was capable of.
So as we ride on board with Tay Kim, looking back at Pipers, fortunately lost a little bit of ground. Now they're catching up to more lap traffic. That was been lost last time that they nearly punted off. And once again, oh, they're all three nearly coming together. That's Ogren who catches them out. Thankfully, Pipers does not make contact with Tay Kim, but the ground that he lost has now come back to him. And look at him, just nosing it under the rear bumper of that 777.
Yeah, that is very, very close contact there. We get a very close look at the front of Gillen Piper's car there. It's very, very tricky. I tell you what, guys, if I was in a wheel-to-wheel battle, I think both Pipers and Daniel Morad are playing this smart, because as we saw in that incident when the leading cars came unsighted through turn 1, as we look back at some of the GT4 cars, I'll let you take this one, Sam.
Yeah, well, there's always an interesting battle deep in the field of these fields, isn't there? And that's for around 10th place, because it's the final point. This is for 9th, 10th, and 11th positions. Zinn just got by Steinhausen, and behind them is Mikovic, who I think, Joe, deserves the award for unluckiest driver of the season so far.
Yeah, he's seen his share of woes as he continues on letting by Alex Simonik, our leader in the GTEs. They certainly don't want to catch him out here and cause him to have an incident. He's going to easily sneak by on the inside of turn 5, past Brian Zinn. These three, all 4 positioned down in the mid-pack for the GT4s. Let's see what kind of run they can get onto the backstretch. I think they're going to be caught by, looks like, there's a little look to the inside from McKevitt.
Yeah, that's not the best place to try a pass. I get that he's being impatient, but he'd be so much better off, I think, waiting for a move on the back straight. He might still be able to pull it off because of the slipstream he'll be getting on Steinhausen, but McKevitt is carrying a lot of damage on the front end of his Porsche from where he put it in the wall, and I don't know if that could be costing him a little bit late on the brake. So down the inside, and they catch up to the tail end of the car in front of him, and no pass is made.
Literally
the 911, the GTE car. The good thing is they can hear it coming. It's one of the loudest race cars you're ever likely to hear.
That was
both
Ben.
in the real world and in sim. Oh, it was. Is Ben off? No, he's not by.
He almost shoved Zinn off there. Ben and Zinn came together coming out of the final turn. Let's watch the replay on it. I was about to say he was literally weaving through the traffic out of the chicane, and then just timed this one wrong. Oof. Gives him a little nudge, and thankfully Zinn's on it.
He binned when he should have zinned.
Yes, the Brian's in there. To be honest, it's just one line through there. It's not as if he could have moved over for Caden Bin. So just unlucky there, and that's just a perfect example of where you come across the traffic is so important. But yeah, just coming back to the drivers in the GTE class who are in close battle, guys like Daniel Morad, I think they're being clever here, because as we saw in that opening incident with the top 3 drivers, it was Dakota Fripp who really came off worse, because he was the first guy on the scene, if you like. Whereas if you can just hang back ever so slightly, you've got much more of a chance of avoiding any wrecks with slow traffic, which is such a risk here at Road Atlanta.
Fifth place GTE. Here they come into the braking zone. We've got a whale of a battle here. And that's Pipers on the inside, almost getting into the rear fender. That could have been ugly.
Yeah, with Alex Ellis now behind him, they absolutely were dodging and weaving through the traffic coming onto the backstretch. A bad exit for Pipers. Doesn't quite offer it up for Ellis, but he's going to take it anyways. He looks to the inside as they fan out 3 wide down into the corner. Tay Kim's going to take it the best and stretch away as those two sort it out amongst each other. Ellis has the inside coming into turn 3, but he's too shallow, and now he's off course as Pipers is going to hold on to 6. This has allowed Alexander Davidson now to join the fray.
And at the top of the hill, Steinhausen gets spun in GT4. He was one of the ones battling for 10th in GT4, but this battle continues thick and heavy as they come out of turn 5.
Davidson's got a good run.
Sorry, Joe.
And Pipers is really on the back foot here. He's been playing defense. He's been doing well with it, mind you, but Davidson, who has a lot of speed, it seems, is already up to 7th place, looking for 6th now. as he's on the back of Pipers down the back stretch. He's got the slipstream. Pipers is going to hold the middle of the track. A half-hearted defense, though, is not going to be enough. He easily grabs the inside. If Davidson is good on the binders, he could take this position away. They're about dead even into the corner. Made a little bit of contact, but Davidson, with his elbows out, gets himself back to where he qualified.
Good move there from Davidson. Very, very strong. We're looking back now at Giuliano and Morad, still no change at all. And of course, with Caden Bin getting involved in that little bit of incident with traffic there, he's too far back right now as well, with only 9 minutes left. So this has been a good drive from Giuliano Romagnolo. Of course, he got taken out of a podium position by Nico Varone on the final corner 2 weeks ago at Sebring. So he'll be really pleased to be holding this very, very strong position. As we see Thomas Cope there flashing at GTE cars. I don't know why he's doing that.
Well, he's probably not happy about being shoved offline unceremoniously. Fellows trying to catch up to second place still as we ride on board with Morad just behind the red and white machine of Romagnolo in the 55 Porsche down into the chicane. A little show of the nose from Daniel Morad, but I think he's just trying to get into the head of him. Broomhead, who there we see in second, stays off to the side and lets this battle through.
And sixth place is coming into the braking zone, Peter. Once again, oh, and there's contact for 7th and 8th in GTE, but they get away with it. But this battle, still hot.
Yeah, around the outside, Morad going to try and do it the hard way. And he's going to be on the outside again as they make a little bit of contact. Can Romagnolo hold on to the car? He does. Just a little bit of a nudge, but Giuliano is fending off Morad with everything he's got now.
Yeah, Morad using all of his real-world experience. It just felt to me like he was just sitting and waiting and biding his time, keeping a bit of tyre life possibly, but now he's really woken up. Now, this is a bit awkward as well for Daniel Morad. We should make our viewers aware that Daniel is the series organiser here and plays a little bit of responsibility for driving standards, so he's kind of got to make a little bit of an example to the rest of the drivers. However, he's a racing driver, so he wants to go ahead and win this battle. Of course he would. So this will be fantastic to watch as we see Daniel go to the outside line. Giuliano takes the inside as he's permitted to do. This will all be last of the late breakers here as they head into 10A and 10B. Has Morad done enough to get by? No, Giuliano Romagnolo defends once more. Brilliant stuff.
I don't think Romagnolo cares about the reputation or the power in this organization of Daniel Morad. He's going to show him what he's got. That is a robust but fair defense. 7 minutes left to go. Can Morad climb back up to that bumper and give it another go?
Does that make Daniel Morad the Bernie Ecclestone of the Racing Edge SimRacing? And maybe it does, but of course Bernie Ecclestone never got behind the wheel in Formula One. Oh, as they got more traffic and Romagnolo's up against it. That's Waring. That's Andrew Waring, sorry, and the leader in GT4, number 336, moves across to the side. And look who we have. Where on earth did Caden Bin just close down about 3 seconds in 2 laps? That is extraordinary. That is a fly in the ointment that I don't think Daniel Morad or Giuliano Romagnolo were counting on.
I think the battle that they were having and then the traffic that they experienced finally offered Caden the chance to get into things and see if he can get some money today. Again, the podium, all in both classes, get cash today, leaving the door slightly open. Morad has to weave back to try and get around Romagnolo as he shuts it late. They're going to go side by side again. What's Ben going to do? He's going to try and go 3 wide as he launches off the corner and gets a 2 for 1. Can he complete it by the time they get around the final corner? This is going to be tight through here. It's not over yet. And here comes Romagnolo back at him with better momentum around the outside of turn 1. We talked about how dangerous this can be, but look at that. He takes it back.
Round the outside at turn 1 at Road Atlanta. That should not go, but it does as we see another GT4. Oh! Ben's taken out Daniel Morad. Ben has taken out Daniel Morad. And now look at that. He's stopped. He could have gone forward there, but he's let Morad recover. That is interesting.
Yeah, it was just a little bit of lap traffic.
Car.
Yeah, and Ben was trying to go around it, didn't realize or didn't notice that he had Morad to his right side and just kind of got into the side of him. That cost both of them a little bit. Morad still runs in third. Bin falls to fifth as Tae Kim inherits P4 as we watch the replay one more time.
I hate to use a racing driver excuse here, but was there a little bit of netcode at play there, guys?
There could have been, but I think he was still moving off to the side. I think there still would have been contact there. Regardless, I mean, there was a lot happening in all of those 30 seconds that I'm amazed it took that long for them to even make contact. Meanwhile, back down in the GT4s, have a nice little battle here between Sydney Nye and Sam Fellows for third.
Yeah, Sam Fellows as a driver, I had high expectations from this race. Starting in fifth, I thought he would be able to carve his way through. Well, he has. He's emerged in third place and been running there all race after getting through that big one on lap number 5. However, he's under a lot of pressure, and a big mistake through the chicane is going to hand it over to Sydney Nye. So that not only has podium and cash implications for this race, but it has points implications in the long run as well, Joe, because Sam Fellows as a driver, I think, could fight for the title if he gets a couple of good results going for him. Fourth place doesn't pay a whole lot of points in the grand scheme of things.
So, as we watch up at front at Daniel Morad, now with an even more damaged car, Tae Kim has closed it down, is looking like he might claim the final paying position. They come down into the chicane. Worth pointing out that even if Caden Bin doesn't get money today, he'll get free candy at least.
Very important, and also he will get probably a bit of a quiet thank you from Daniel Morad as well, because I have to say I would have been ruthless and just carried on there and hoped not to get a penalty later on, but he did a very honourable and gentlemanly thing. After he got into the side of Daniel, he actually stopped and waited for Daniel to get going again, and that dropped them a little bit down the order, and Bin now back in fifth, but Morad still in third, so still in a podium position, and that would be his first podium of the season in the Racing Edge series. So very good manners from the young man, 23 of Caden Bin.
Well, Tae Kim was closing, and maybe we have to wait for the backstretch here. Maybe it's just the straight line speed, because Morad is certainly taking the first half of this course quite a bit quicker than the 777. The gap as they come onto the backstretch, 1 second. Let's watch it, see if it comes down.
Yeah, and of course, Tae Kim has, as you see, his car is in immaculate condition, his 911 RSR, so no big repair bill for him. But Daniel Morad's car, on the other hand, is looking very second-hand indeed. So that is bound to affect his speed. So Tae Kim, he'll be looking in the 777 car, he'll be looking to try and get onto the podium and gain a little bit of cash.
Unfortunately, he was not quicker, though. He didn't gain any time at all along the backstretch, so not sure what happened then. Maybe it was traffic that allowed him to catch up. Could have been any number of things. We're under 2 minutes to go. I believe we're going to get the white flag for Slimonic next time by. Down to the GT4. Yeah. This one's not over yet, Sam.
Yeah, Nye got held up a little bit by GTE traffic getting by him, so that's allowed Fellows to run him down. Fellows would have to be really late on the brakes to make something happen from that far back. Now, depending on where Simonic is, I don't know if these drivers are about to cross the line to get 3 to go or 2 to go. Oh, and there's a spin behind them.
That's Cope. The 64 ends his miserable day in a bit of a shameful fashion as we stay on this fight on screen. That's Sheriff back there who could suddenly get in the fray too.
And I want to make note, Joe, that Morley is missing his hood. I don't know what happened to Michael Morley, but he's racing out there badly damaged. But here we go, Simonic about to take a white flag.
Just did take the white flag. Last lap for the 250, looking for a 3rd win in a row.
Oh, now look what we have here. Daniel Morad, who did a 1:17.4 on the last lap, so his pace hasn't dropped off much at all despite that damage, but Tae Kim and Caden Bin back there, so Caden Bin now, he could, after all this calamity, he could end up on the podium here if he can get past Kim and Morad, but very easy for us to say, hard for him to do.
And Joe, as Simonik comes here to the start-finish line to finish the race, he is going by the battle for third in GT4. So these guys are coming to the checkered flag, racing for third, fourth, and fifth in GT4. And we got this battle too.
Oh, it's hard to put the cameras everywhere. We're watching on screen between the GTE cars, but Fellows is actually around the outside and almost past Nye. They're going to come together. We didn't see it on screen. Nye gets turned around as we got to go to our leader, Simonic, down to the checkered flag. Third win out of 4 races. Simonic is on a streak.
And so Fellows will win that battle after that contact with Nye in the final chicane. And this battle, Peter.
Oh, and look at that. Morad and Kim have both gone
through.
off, and Caden goes round the outside. And
No, it's Davidson.
He's rally driving over the top. Goodness me, my screen has just jumped there, and Davidson gets through. He's going to get the podium money. My goodness me, what a finish.
Holy cow. Davidson, I think, was back in, he had to have been in 5th or 6th place and moved up to 3rd in 2 corners. Incredible. Just amazing stuff. Warren is coming down to take his win. Probably the quietest drive of everybody out here. The 336 with a 15-second gap over his nearest rival, Broomhead, back in P2. So Andrew Warren, another one who is just racking up the points here down in the GT4 class. Victory today here at Road Atlanta. That's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We're going to catch our breath. We'll come back with the full results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Road Atlanta. A frantic race, especially at the end here in Georgia for the Racing Edge Series. And Alex Simonic took the win with Giuliano Romagnolo finishing P2. The last of the drivers to get cash in GTE was Alexander Davidson. He did indeed go from 6th down the backstretch through the chicane in the final corner up to 3rd. Incredible. Daniel Morad just behind him was 4th and at least took points. Take Him was 5th behind him, and Alex Ellis wound up P6. Caden Bin lost a number of positions there at the end as he tried and picked the wrong side in all the melee that was happening. He was 7th. Gilham Pipers was P8. Dakota Fripp, after starting on the pole, unfortunately winds up in 9th, getting caught up in a big accident. Stephen Jeffrey was 10th. Nick Del Campo 11th. Carlos Cantu 12th. And Jose Balbiani was 13th, Sam.
Andrew Warren won GT4, and that's the only thing to be expected. Everything else was out of a window. I was struggling to keep up with my notes throughout the race. But Michael Broomhead finally gets the podium in 2nd. Sam Fellows, after contact with Sydney Nye in the final chicane, comes home in 3rd place, and Sheriff sneaks on by for 4th, and Christopher Bailey for 5th. Nye recovered, but he gets 6th. I'm sure he's going to be bummed he wasn't able to get a podium finish. Let's give a shout out to Phil Beans. He wasn't able to turn a good qualifying lap, so he started 18th in class. He comes home in 7th, ahead of Michael Morley, 8th place. That is not good for points. Colin McKevitt had to make a bit of a comeback drive. He finishes in 9th place in class. I believe that's correct, yep. So Phil Schrader takes the final point. He was having a bit of a battle with Brian Zinn throughout the race, and Brian Zinn, unfortunately, on the outside of the points, 11th in class. Likewise for Jeremy Steinhauser, Michael Ogren, Thomas Beingloss, Thomas Cope, GTE driver of Reggie Robertson, Wayne Rayner, and then by this time, Joe, you're getting to the casualties of this race, of which unfortunately there were a lot.
Unfortunate, yes, for sure. But Alex Simonic is one of our drivers that had a fortunate day and wound up taking some cash home as we pull him in. Alex, you were following back in 3rd, and then, well, it seems like your whole world changed.
Yeah. This is my first race with Dakota in like the series with me. He's my teammate. So I basically said, like, because he did qualified pole, I just said keep up the pace like in the front, and then I'm just gonna hang out in the back, and that's basically what I did. But as soon as that wreck happened, I thought like I caused it, and it kind of seems like at the end, like if you slow it down, I didn't get on the brakes like enough, like as much as Caden did, so I kind of hit Caden into Dakota. But my other teammates are saying that like I didn't see, I didn't have enough time to react for that, so I have to wait for Ginger to say what the outcome is on that.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I'd be with your teammates. I don't think anybody really could have stayed out of that one. But it's sort of a moot point. How much damage did that damage hurt your pace, though? Obviously, not enough to lose the race, but it seemed like you were holding everybody else back pretty fine.
I did have front damage. I was understeering a lot, especially like into turn 7 or turn 3. Whenever I would get on the brakes, I would get the lockup lights coming on, and it would just start understeering. Not as much as so into 5, though.
It certainly seemed like it was quite chaotic once again. Are you expecting that it'll maybe calm down a little bit at Le Mans with the longer straights?
Hopefully there's not an entire straight worth of catching someone up and then diving it on the inside for one Mulsanne and then getting wrecked out. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Well, we're looking forward to watching and seeing it. 3 wins in a row. Congratulations, Alex. That was Alex Simonic, our winner here today. Up next, I believe we've got Sam talking to Andrew Waring.
Yes, this is getting to be a familiar interview because Andrew Warren, you also have 3 wins in a row now, and also a great points day as your other championship contenders ran into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, kind of threw a curveball at us with the tire update this morning. Honestly, I didn't get a chance to practice due to real life commitments, so I think that honestly helped because I was able to get in the car and get used to it with the tires, and I think a lot of people were caught out by the big change. So Road Atlanta is one of my favorite tracks, and I just got to make sure I did these 3 races perfectly because with Le Mans coming up, you never know what can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We go to Le Mans next week. Well, this I'm pretty sure is going to launch you to the top of point standings. After 3 races, 3 wins, 3 poles, everything's going well for you. But I've got to imagine it wasn't all easy out there. Even despite the fact that you had a pretty handy lead, you still had to watch out for those GTE cars out there.
Yeah, traffic was a big role, and honestly, in the first maybe 10 minutes, Mike was keeping me pretty honest. I really didn't see the gap pulling out, and at some points it was actually coming down. So I really thought he had me on tire wear because I tried to just sprint away at the beginning. But I thought overall, the GTEs did a great job. Daniel Morad in the whole series did a really good job of laying out, key practice or key passing areas before and after the race. And I just tried to keep the comms to a minimum. But when I saw somebody coming up at a weird time, I had the gap that I could afford to let somebody by and enjoy their own race. So it was good. I hope it was an enjoyable race for the spectators as always. The GT4 cars are not easy to drive around that track. I don't think the front tires are even on the ground for half the lap. So it's a good job by everybody, I think, still.
All right. Well, good job by everybody. A great job by you. And we look forward to seeing what you can do at Le Mans.
Thanks, guys.
And then up next, looks like Peter's caught up with second place in the GTE class. It's Giuliano Romagnolo.
How's it going, guys?
Hi, Giuliano. Thanks for coming to join us in the commentary box. Well, we thought after race 1, that was very exciting. So was race 2, so was race 3. And here we are, race 4, another cracker. And you spent most of the race battling away with your Racing Edge adversary, Daniel Morad. Tell us about that battle.
Yeah, you know what? It was a clean battle. Dan and I always race each other very, very clean. We have that respect for one another. So a couple of times on the back straight, he had the draft. He just pulled in behind me. We were trying to catch Simonic at that point, especially into turn 1 a couple of times. Yeah, I mean, he did try to make a couple moves there into the last chicane off the back straight. I defended, and we were very fair. So he gave me the space. He could have easily dove into the corner there and gave me a nose, but at that point we were just trying to catch the leader. So all in all, man, honestly, he's great to race with, and that's what makes racing fun when you have two drivers at the caliber that we are, at least the caliber that I think that we are, racing that close wheel to wheel. It makes it good for everybody. It makes it great for you guys to do your job, and it makes it great to to view for the viewers. So it was definitely fun for sure.
Well, certainly you guys have made our job very, very easy by providing some fantastic racing. Now, I must ask you one last question about your paint scheme. Now, is that, first of all, is that a goat on your car? And second of all, why?
Yeah, that is a goat on my car. In the Twitch community, I'm actually known as the goat. In the Call of Duty community, I'm known as the goat. It's just something that has been, I don't know, it's just one of those play on things just because I can make goat noises very well, I guess, and it just kept on going, and now here we are, and I am the goat. So everything that I do, all my Twitch emotes, all my Twitch viewers, they're the herd. All my Twitch emotes are goats in cars, everything goats, you know what I mean? So it was only fitting to put it on my car. It's just a fun little thing that I have going on. It's kind of like my side gig, I guess you can say, or my alias.
I see. Well, when you get your first win in the series, we'll get you to do your GOAT impression live on GSRC. Before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I just want to say thanks to you guys for commentating the race. I want to say thanks to Racing Edge for putting this on. It's an unreal series, as you guys can tell. A lot of high skill, a lot of high caliber drivers here. The racing is incredible. I mean, going 3 wide into the last sector and coming out on top in the first corner was unreal. I hope they get to see that on the broadcast there. But yeah, other than that, I want to say thank to the herd, like I mentioned on Twitch. They're always there supporting me. They're strong, and you guys can follow me at @just_famous on Twitch. And make sure you guys give GSRC a follow as well, because they're great at commentating, and I hope you guys can support them.
That's very kind, Giuliano. Thanks for coming to join us, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Was second place in the GTE class. Next up, I've got Michael Broomhead with me for the GT4. Second place for him. Michael, you kind of had a bit of luck today, it seems. Were you at all aware, or have you been able to go back and watch the big wreck that happened right behind you? And how much did you know about that until later in the race?
I mean, I'll be honest, I did see it in the mirror, and the relief. Morley's been fast. Obviously, he's been fast in the first few races, but he's always been pretty up there, and Cope was coming back a little, and I was having a good battle with Cope, actually. He had good pace during the race, but thankfully for me, unlucky for them, they got together a little bit.
And speaking of drivers being fast, Warren seems to have pretty good pace over you. I mean, is there anything you can do to try and stem the tide that he's got in terms of momentum in this points chase?
I'm trying. Every race I've been working with my brother to, having things a little bit. So every race I've been getting closer and closer. And finally, top 3, I get to speak to you guys. And yeah, I'm really proud of that.
Again, congratulations on your first podium. Apologies for it having to be a bit short, as we're short on. Before you go, anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, actually, Elise Foundation. Please check out eliseslight.com. Sponsors, real sponsors. Also, the Overrev show. Kevin Krause has a good show there for motorsport enthusiasts, so please check those out. And thanks to my brother again, and thanks to you guys as well.
Well, Peter has caught up with third place here. Alexander Davidson with a surprise podium.
Hello, Alexander. What an incredible finish to that race where you got the last spot in the podium. I think the only thing we can ask you is tell us about that final sector.
Honestly, I do not have a clue. Lap traffic kind of got in the way and bunched everything up, and then the final chicane weren't too locked up, and then they took fifth with them, and I just slid through.
Just as easy as that. Now, I recognise the accent there, Alex. What part of the country are you from?
Central Scotland.
Central Scotland. So you're not being specific. So is it Grangemouth? Linlithgow?
You know where Clickmannanshire is?
Yes, I do. I do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in Perth, so it's nice to have a fellow Scot in the commentary box.
All right.
Thanks for coming to join us in the commentary box here in GSRC. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
My mum and dad for letting me play to God knows what hours.
Always keep them happy. Thanks for coming to join us, Alex, and hopefully see you again next week.
Thank you.
That was Alexander Davidson with third place. Scott's getting to reminisce down there, but we have Sam talking to Sam once again, fellows, with a third place.
Yeah, Sam, congrats on a podium finish, although it wasn't without a little bit of drama in that final corner.
Hey guys, I think that was really. I mean, the stewards are going to look at it, but I know the racing line there is the curbs, and I left him the whole curb. So I mean, it's his right to go and talk to the stewards. That's fine, and I'll respect whatever the call is. But yeah, I just want to say thanks to Pfaff Motorsports, Pelote Shoes, Durham Tourism, and the Straight Pipes. Shout out to my sponsors there.
Well, this means you have a third, a second, and a third in the last three races. The problem is, the last three races, Warren has got first, and first. So what do you need to do to beat him?
Yeah, I think today was definitely not my day. I wasn't comfortable in qualifying. I couldn't get a good lap in. There, as I'm sure you guys know, the tire update for this car from last night threw a little bit of a wrench into my plans here. It's just, when you're practicing all week with a specific, model and all the physics involved in science in that, there's little things. And for me, the car was just really nervous at the top of the S's, and I just didn't feel comfortable, pushing. And at the beginning of the race, I was just trying to keep up with that little pack there. And I think Andrew was, especially today, although it seems that for the whole season so far, he's just been in a class of his own. So I'm hoping we get, I get a little bit closer where it was at Watkins Glen, where I can get close and try to make a pass. But yeah, I mean, he's super good. So he'll be hard to beat, but it'll be a good challenge. Looking forward to the rest of the season.
So are we, Sam. Thanks for coming to talk to us. Good luck at Le Mans.
All right, thanks, guys. Take care.
Fellows with a third place finish here today. And that's going to close us out for our interviews, with a big thank you going to our promoter once again, Racing Edge, who can be found at racingedge.com. And also a thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Sean, Sam, Peter, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also check out our social media, with our Twitter being at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store, gsrc.storenvy.com. We got a link in the description below. And while you're down there, if you see a big red button that says subscribe, if you haven't subscribed to us yet, do that. Click it, and you won't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, heading over to France, to Le Mans. That'll be Tuesday, July 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. And if you stick around, we've got the PRL GTE Sports Car Series coming up in just about an hour. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.